You are Locked On Golden Gophers POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Gophers defense puts the clamps on Dylan Raiola and the Cornhuskers. 8 sacks on the night. Season high for them. Darius Taylor goes buck wild as well. 24-6. That's your final. Gophers move to 5-2 on the year. Thanks for joining us. We're deep diving into all the instant reaction right here. Golden Gophers Postcast on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. You got me, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. Ron Johnson. Give him a follow on X, at 3Ron Johnson. Make sure you check him out each and every Tuesday on the Ron Johnson Show right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube page. And, of course, wherever you find your podcasts. Just off the top here, Ron, Gophers sitting at 4-2 coming into this one. I'm kind of thinking to myself right before kickoff, you're kind of at that fork in the road in the season this week. You're right at the halfway mark. And as a team, as a fan, as a coach, whatever it may be, you kind of start to ask yourself, like, who are we going to be? What's our path? You know, they got worked against Ohio State 2 weeks ago. A nice bounce back versus Purdue last week, but still kind of waiting for, are we going to have a signature win that kind of gets some momentum on your side? I thought tonight was that win, top to bottom, man. Pass rush was fantastic. Darius Taylor was fantastic. And they put the clamps down on Nebraska. They moved to 5-2. Talk to me about your knee-jerk reaction after what felt like a complete team performance tonight. What did we learn about the Gophers tonight?
Well, we learned that without Darius Taylor, this is the team that they should be. Without Darius Taylor, they can't move the ball well. They don't stay ahead of the sticks well. But with Darius Taylor, clearly he's a difference maker. And the one thing that I realized is if they had Darius Taylor against Cal, they're 6-1 at this point, and they're probably top 25 at this point. You know, the game today would have been even more meaningful going into it with 2 5-1 teams. But you know what? Like, that's what happens. Like, this is because we talked about, can they get 8 to 9 wins? I still think they're there. They have the athletes. You look at Michigan State, you look at Iowa. I think those are 2 wins there. So for the Gophers, and then Wisconsin, you know, that's win number 8 right there. Can they knock off another team in there? Like, can they do something special against Oregon with their run game? Maybe, but Darius Taylor is this team. You can see it easily. Like, the ball runs through him, the game goes through him, and he's a difference maker. The only other thing I thought about too, when you look at the way this game panned out, and you might have to check the stats. When I was looking at it, I thought they had 9 sacks. I thought they got a 9th sack at the end of the game with that last second, because it gave Jackson Howard 2 sacks. 2 other people had 2.5 sacks combined.
9
5 to
sacks.
7.
You're right. 9 sacks. Yeah. That's right.
So
that one at the end.
Yep, that's the record. So they got a Gopher record now, 9 sacks in one game. And you know, I think it was McKinstry or whoever had the one. And then you had
who didn't have one tonight?
Devin Eastern, I think.
Eastern,
Kingsbury, that's what it was. But you know, Howard had 2. Eastern, Anthony Smith. Like, the only person that didn't have one is Coy Parrish. You know, Coy Parrish didn't get one. But that was my knee-jerk reaction. Like, looking at that, like the minute I saw the score 21-6. So 7-6, we were all standing there like, oh man. And it was cool too. When I walked into the stadium after the pregame show, guess who walks right with me? Kevin O'Connell. So Kevin O'Connell and I are walking down the tunnel together. I kind of wish I'd had like some pictures and some highlight footage of that, but you know, I was like, I'm not going to fanboy this.
Play it cool.
Yeah, played it cool. And so he and I are just chatting, talking to his son. He's telling me the story about Mike Tannenbaum. And the one thing he said, he was like, you know what? I was like, why are you here on a Friday night? He's like, you know, I my kids, you know, my son, you know, I'm gonna come support. You know, we're at home. Yeah, we're at home. We play Sunday, so he came out to support the Gophers, and so that was cool to kind of chat it up with him a little bit about the upcoming game. Max Brosmer was there as well, of course, you know, supporting the team. So it was just a cool atmosphere. And then you know what? They got it done. The Gophers got it done. But yeah, my knee-jerk reaction is they should be 6-1.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Biggest turning point tonight, Ron, honestly, it's going to be easy to say, you know, one of the many explosive Darius Taylor's plays that kind of sparked this offense tonight. But how about the middle of the third quarter? You're only up 1 possession, right? 14-6, still anybody's game. You got to start the drive at your own 2-yard line. Can't really get any worse than that. But what do? A 14-play, 98-yard drive took up almost 9 minutes. And that puts you up 2 possessions. Bang. That felt like a massive turning point. What'd you think of that drive itself? And maybe give me another turning point as well tonight.
I mean, I think it was a masterclass. Like, I think they did a great job of just doing what they do, which is staying ahead of the sticks. They got some big plays. I think they got a flag in there too, though. Didn't they? Wasn't there a
Yeah, there
defensive
was.
holding or something?
Yep,
Yeah.
defensive
So I know they
holding,
had a
5 yards.
flag in there, but I mean, honestly, like I go back to it. Darius Taylor is a difference maker,
Yeah.
and Fame looked good too. When Fame, a DJ boy, got into the game, he's a different change of pace back. It sucks that AJ Turner is now out for the season.
Mhm.
So that is a blow to the team. But Fame, AJ boy, and Darius Taylor. I was more concerned with Darius Taylor being in the game in the fourth quarter late. I'm like, why is he still out there? I mean, I get trying to get him more yards and get him, because he hasn't played much. So you're trying to get him going and make sure he gets the carries that he wants. But I'm like, he needs to be healthy for Michigan State and for Iowa. But yeah, that was a huge turning point for me. Yeah, but the one for me is the big run, like the
Yeah.
Darius Taylor run.
71.
That was a huge kind of like deflating. Like if you would have, so Luke, it was red in the stadium. I was really upset with
That's
how much
crazy.
red was
After
in the
homecoming
stadium.
week last week too?
Yeah,
That's
and the
crazy.
problem too, though, is the Gophers went maroon, so you couldn't tell the difference because there were so many maroon people too. But then it was a lot of red, like all over. Like even in the pregame show, we looked over at the restaurant behind us, and it was half and half. Nebraska traveled well, and you at one point in the game you couldn't tell who was making a play because if the Gophers didn't get the play, there was huge cheers. If the Gophers got a play, there was huge cheers. So you really didn't know. You had to pay attention to the game. Normally you can kind of look around and then you hear a cheer and you're like, oh, that's us. Like, no, one time it was a stop and it was loud. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's Nebraska fans cheering. Dylan Raiola, the left-handed pass, I was cheering. And I'm like, what the heck? And so that Darius Taylor run, Luke, shut them up. Like it got
Love
quiet
that.
on their end. The Gophers fans were loud, but then anytime after that Nebraska did something, their fans kind of felt it like, man, here we go again. This Nebraska can't get over the hump. Matt Rule, PJ Fleck owns Matt Rule. And I will say in the pregame show, we do a matchup meter. And I had to pick between Matt Rule and PJ Fleck, and I picked PJ Fleck. I felt like he had a tougher schedule. I felt like he's doing more with his team and he's more sustainable for how he's setting it up. Whereas Matt Rule, it feels like Dylan Raiola is the team. If he leaves next year or year after next, I don't feel like they have anything in the hopper, can they get another 5-star to come behind Dylan Raiola? After this game, if I'm a recruit and I'm looking at Nebraska or Minnesota, I'm going to Minnesota. But yeah, that turning point for me was Darius Taylor's run. It was huge. The crowd for Nebraska got quiet after that, and it felt like the Gophers kind of took over.
Yeah, that was the start of the second quarter too.
Yep.
You hate to see, Darius Taylor goes down to 1 after that 71-yard scamper. Drake Lindsey gets to sneak it in and gets all the stats tomorrow morning. But nonetheless, we always talk about team stats. Team stats play such a critical role in so many collegiate games week to week, Ron. They won the time of possession. They had almost 4 times the amount of rushing yards, which is insane to say. Half the amount of penalties. They only had 3 penalties all night. 35 rushing attempts, which was nice to finally see the Gophers doing a win again. 9 sacks. Maybe most importantly, 0 turnovers. What's 1, maybe 2? What's the number one team stat that just really stuck out tonight from this one?
The fact that they held Emmett Johnson to 54, I think it was 54 yards is what he finished with. That was crazy. This is a team that, and the fact that Nebraska, I think, had the number 1 run defense. I had to pull my stats out at the next break.
They are top 20 in every defensive ranking and category.
I think they had only allowed like
defenses.
118 run yards or something like that. And so for the Gophers to run the ball like that on them the way they did, one, shows that offensive line, 330 pounds across the board is an absolute force that, they're going to see later and hopefully continue to push the ball up the field. And this is perfect snow football. Like that offensive line is built for when it gets cold and Drake Lindsey can't throw the ball 40 times. But that stat line for me, the fact that the differences in Nebraska not being able to run the ball and the Gophers being able to run the ball, that's huge.
All right, let's get into what we'll be talking about tomorrow morning.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Maybe I'm oversimplifying it here, Ron, but this felt like the best win of the season. Like, not just because it was against a ranked opponent, but because it was the cleanest game top to bottom we've seen them play all year. Offense, defense, special teams, they all did their part. 0 turnovers. Pass rush was relentless. No sacks in the last 2 games, by the way. 7 versus Rutgers and then 9 tonight, but kind of up and down. We'll take it tonight, no doubt. But pass rush was cooking. Darius Taylor, Obviously very efficient. For me, I got to think people wake up tomorrow saying that was the best Gophers win of the year. That was the best football they've played all year. And Gophers are starting to put together maybe their best football when things are starting to really ramp up in college football in the second half of the year right now.
Sorry, let me clean that up. 118 pass yards per game, which was first in the Big Ten, is what they allow defensively.
Okay.
151 run yards, which is actually 17th. So the fact that the Gophers did stick to that, saying, I know their defense can't, they can't stop the run.
Yep.
They showed it. So that was one. But yeah, so I think, yes, this was one of the best wins. And I think the other part about it is a top 25 win. PJ Fleck now is the most winningest. So he has the most top 25 wins or AP top 25 wins in Gopher football history as a Gophers coach.
Wow.
Like I just saw they posted that.
Wow.
So the fact that, PJ Fleck continues to knock off these giants, Penn State, and honestly, like he has a chance to beat Oregon. Like Oregon has not seen a physical run game yet. And I don't think PJ is going to get into a throwing match against them. I think he's going to say, like, this defense is legit. I'd say Cal, the only thing that they didn't do in Cal is what they did tonight, which is pressure on the quarterback. If they had this pressure on their quarterback against Cal, they win that game. And so, again, Dante Moore is legit, but I could see them knocking off another giant. But, that's what I think everybody's going to be talking about is when you look at the way they won this game, it was no doubt. Like, again, when it was 6-7, as the kids would say, 6-7. But then when it was 6-7 for most of the game, and I saw the students kept doing that, and everybody kept doing 6-7. At first, I was like, what is going on? And then I looked at the score, and I'm like, oh, crap, here we go. And then they took over, though. Like, once they got that next touchdown, I think it was Lemeki Brockington. I think that was the second one. They just took over after that. It was over after that. And so that's the one thing that I've learned is, like, if the Gophers put their best foot forward, which honestly Darius Taylor has to be out there, they win most of these games. And that was what I'm like, everybody's gonna be talking about. Like, this was a signature win. Even though Nebraska did not look good, they're good.
They're good.
Like, and here's what I hate that's gonna happen this week. People are now gonna talk about they didn't play anybody. Dylan Raiola's not that good. Nebraska's not as good as we thought they were. They're a fraud. Because of course Minnesota beat them, so they're gonna say Nebraska was a fraud. I think Nebraska still might keep winning other games after this, and people are just gonna realize Danny Collins and this Havoc defense is legit.
Yeah. Dylan Raiola averaging almost 240, 250 per game this year. Couldn't even muster a $180 tonight. Secondary was sticky all night long. Don't go anywhere. What we loved, what we hated, that's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, the NFL season's here. FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with this can't-miss offer right now, new customers. You bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll win $300 in bonus bets to use across the app instantly. What I love FanDuel, they got everything. Player props, same game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. You name it, they got it. So quick, so easy. Best way to add a little bit more enthusiasm, a little bit more juice to your Sundays. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. That's FanDuel.com. You're getting $300 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. MVP of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
So a lot of different options. I feel like you can maybe go, but lay it on us. Tonight's game MVP for the Gophers, 24-6 over Nebraska. Who was it and why, Ron?
So a simple one would say Darius Taylor. But you know what, man? I'm going to give it to the defensive line. Yeah. I think, between all those guys with all those sacks, Devin Eastern, Anthony Smith, Jackson Howard, Kingsbury, like all of those guys deserve it, man. Like they absolutely got after the quarterback. They did a great job keeping him in the pocket. And again, he did scramble. He did his thing. He did his Patrick Mahomes thing every once in a while and had some weird throws and I'm in the grass and I'm going to still make a throw with my left hand. I'm going to flip it to a guy. He did that, but it did not hurt the Gophers. Like Emmett Johnson, some of those flips or other guys, tight ends and receiver. The minute he flipped the ball to them, they cut the guy's knees out. They were knocking those guys down. So that defensive line, they kept him running around the entire game. That was a huge game by that defensive line. So I got to give the player of the game to all those guys. Like that front absolutely created havoc for Dylan Raiola. And he's going to watch that film tomorrow or Sunday or Monday, whenever they come in. And he's going to be like, man, I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And they kept him I mean, honestly, it looked like Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I think it was the Eagles got after him. Yeah. And he just was throwing, Superman throws, laying on the ground, falling. No, I think, what was the year the Eagles, was it the Eagles that beat them or who beat them when
Yeah,
he lost?
Eagles beat the Chiefs last year. Saquon went crazy. They crushed them. They won by like 30
So last
points.
year he was running around. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
So
yeah.
the
Yep,
Mahomes running around. Like that's what it looked like. Like Dylan
yep.
Raiola, every time he got comfortable, it looked like he got pushed off his spot and had to try to move around. Also, like the defensive line showed he's not as dynamic as we thought. Like he
Mhm.
looked okay, but I thought he was gonna look way better. I was expecting this Mahomes type of show. He's okay. The one stat that's a crazy nerdy stat for you, Luke, just to
Mhm.
throw it in there, mix it in from the squad show. I think he has like 1,600 yards passing. I think 1,000 of it is yards after the catch.
Wow,
So
really? Mm.
yeah, it's
Mm.
all like running backs, receivers, making catches, and then doing the rest of the work
Mm.
for them. So that was a huge one. When I looked at that, like the yak for these receivers and like even Emmett Johnson I think half of his yards are after contact.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how many plays they make for him versus him making the tight window throws like
That
Mahomes does.
that is very interesting. Good call out there. Great nerdy stat. Seeing him in person, all the Patrick Mahomes comparisons. Forget about just on the field talent. What about the mannerisms and stuff?
Yeah.
Did he look like Patrick Mahomes out there?
He does a little bit, but you can tell it's like a watered down,
Okay.
version of it, like, like a bargain,
The
on
Walmart dollar
sale.
bin. The
Yeah,
Walmart
like the
dollar bin.
$1 bin, like it's just he looks like him. He walks around like him. He has has the haircut like him. He comes into
Yeah.
the stadium like him with the glasses. He does all the stuff. Like we watched him during warm-ups because you could see him doing it. But when the game starts, honestly, like other than some of his stuff, he does the hand thing, like give me the play, give me the play. He does all that. He does the pulling up the pants stuff. He does the leg, the jumping in the end
It's just funny,
zone,
man.
and
It's just funny to see.
but at the end of the day, when he snaps the ball, his read progression is not there. Like there
Mm.
were a couple where I thought he should have got rid of the ball quicker, and it's almost like he's waiting for the big play. And that's the one thing. I mean, and he's young. Like that's one thing maybe Matt Rule's gonna have to teach him. But I said this on the pregame show. Matt Rule is running the same offense he did at Baylor. It's get the ball out of my hands quick to guys like Corey Coleman and some of these fast receivers, and then let them make a play for me. Similar to Oregon. Oregon's the same way. Let's get the ball out of our hands to the playmakers, let the playmakers make plays. That's why if your defensive line can contain it, and they did it. They contained them.
Last one before we get out of here, Ron. So many fantastic individual performances. We touched on the D line. We touched on obviously Darius Taylor, Drake Lindsey. Who's a non-obvious guy that deserves some spotlight, some love, some flowers? Who's a guy that stood out tonight, built some nice momentum moving into next week versus Iowa?
Yeah, so I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the cornerback number 4, he had to come in for I think Nestor.
Zaquan Bryant.
Nestor
Yeah,
was out.
he
And then we've had some other guys hurt. Zaquan Bryant did a great job of like coming through and just making plays. Some of them were drops.
They were trying to pick on him. They were trying to pick on him. Yeah.
And if Nestor's out the game, if I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going after the newer guy. I'm not going to go after because and the great thing about Nestor being out though is they got Aiden Gooseby back. That was huge getting Aiden Gooseby back out there because you can see him making plays. He's been gone for a while, so they're doing all this and they're not at full strength. And that's the hope is that when it comes to this Oregon game, and PJ's not going to look ahead. It's the 0-0 season next for the next team. Like he's not looking, but I'm looking ahead to Oregon. You have to have everybody healthy and ready to go for a team like Oregon if you think you're going to upset them. And it starts with that defense. We had Zaquan Bryant for me. Like he was, every deep ball, it seemed like he was right there. Every time he had to fill up and make a tackle, he was right there. So he's a guy that doesn't get his name called a lot. Yeah. He's not called upon a lot, because you got Kerry Brown out there. Normally you got Nestor out there. Their CB3 was out today as well. So Zaquan, Bryant, man, he every time I saw him, he was making a play down the field.
Yeah. Led the team in tackles tonight with 8 as well, by the
Huge.
way. Gophers pass rush silences Dylan Raiola and the Cornhuskers. 9 sacks on the night. 24-6, that's your final. Gophers moved to 5-2 on the year. 3-1 in the conference now. Huge shout out to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, keep up with all the action. Check out all Ron's great work on X at 3Ron Johnson. Always putting up great stuff over on the Ron Johnson Show as well, each and every Tuesday. Iowa Hawkeyes up next. That's on Saturday. Join us for that one. Should be another good one. Until then, Sky Uma, go Gophers. Signing out.